Hey, Chris from Poseidon here, and we're going to have talk about wing harnesses. So wing harnesses, one of those debates that's been around since the beginning. Should you wear a harness? Should you not wear a harness? People sit both sides of the fence. Argument against. Purest thing about winging is that we're just holding onto our wing, standing on a board. Why do I want to wear something bulky around my waist? Argument for, by having a harness on, we can hook into our wing, give our arms a rest, commit our body weight, go upwind much easier. So there's pros and there's cons. I used to wear a wing harness all of the time. Now I mix it up depending on the session. So we're gonna have a look at how to set up your kit for using a harness, what the different kinds of harnesses are and harness lines are, and then a bit of advice on how to use one for the first time. Cool, so let's jump in and have a look at how we might set up our kit to be using a harness line. So first off, the wing itself with its harness line. Okay, so we've got to find somewhere to attach our harness line onto our wing. The key thing, it's got to be somewhere strong, and we need to have that harness line so it's pulling from the center of effort of the wing. So generally speaking, the wing pulls its hardest halfway between the handles. So if we're attaching our harness line onto two handles like we've got here, then we know we're going to be pretty centered in where we want it to be. Unlike windsurfing, it's not massively crucial that it's exactly right, but we do want it roughly in the center there. Depending on your wing handle configuration, we're going to have to pick which harness line we go for. If we've got tabs built into our wings, like a lot of wings are nowadays, we might go for a harness line that's got a loop, a pigtail and a loop system maybe, we can attach on, fairly obvious. If we've got a handle system like this, then ideally we're going to go for a webbing strap that goes around it, so we've got a firm connection onto there, and it's going to grip nice and tight so it's solid and it's on. Some racers are using a cleat system so we can adjust its length. Length is a preference thing. The shorter that harness line is, the less it gets in the way, but the closer you are, more compact into it, which is going to have you riding more upright. The longer it is, the more space you've got to lean back, but the more committed into the harness you are. So obviously you're going to start somewhere in the middle, but generally speaking, a shorter line is going to be more comfy. The next chain of thought is, do we want a harness line which is firm, it's got a PU coating on the outside of it, or do we want a harness line which is more string and bungee? Okay, so two chains of thought here. One is that we want a line which is going to keep itself out of the way. A bungee line like this, which is really minimalist and small, you barely know it's there. When you're not using it, you don't worry about it. It just retracts itself out of the way. However, downside being that when you do want to hook into it, it's a lot lighter. It gets blown in the wind. It's harder to find it. And when you've got to get out, you've got to pull that bungee out of it first of all. Whereas if it's PU coated, it's always there. It's easy to find it. It's easy to get in. It's easy to get out. However, it's more bulky. It's more cumbersome. It's going to hit you in the face a little bit more and get in your way. So as a general opinion of mine, at least, is that if you're using it a lot and it's something you're relying on a lot, you're probably going to go with PU coated. It's firm. It's easy to use for every run in and out. If you're using it once in a while, just to clip in, to give yourself a break or to charge up wind, the bungee system, the pros outweigh the cons. So you'll consider that when you're choosing which one to use. So much the same when we're choosing our harness, we've got different options to consider. First key thing is, ideally, we're always going to go for a harness which has got a plastic hook. A plastic hook's going to protect your board when you're clambering on it. We also ideally want a harness hook which can move from side to side. Two reasons for that. One, when we're clambering on our board, especially if we're doing long swims, we can move that hook out the way so we can lay down. And two, when we're twisting our body to crank up wind, it allows your body to move, your hips to turn, but the hook to slide round so you're not having to pull the wing with you. So that helps your upwind angles. Now, three chains of thought here when you're choosing your harness. Much like when you chose your harness lines, do we want something we're going to use all the time, or do we want something that's there as an option? So one option we could go for is a harness, is our leash belt, something which looks like this, but which has got a harness hook on it. It's really minimalist, it's really simple. This is going to be really good as an option to clip in sometimes, but not be using all of the time. The reason we might not want to use it all the time is there's not a lot of support on our back there, which means if we're loaded into it for a long time, that's going to press on our back, that's going to start to become uncomfortable. But if we're using it once in a while for a breather, that's going to do the job, no worries at all. If we're looking for ultimate support, maybe we're spending a lot of time in our harness, every single run we're clipping in, we're really trying to push upwind, we're racing, let's say, we like to ride very powered, a hard shell style harness is going to mean all of that load which is coming through is supported and most possible in your back there. It's not compressing, it's not deforming. It's going to cost you a little bit more. It's a little bit more bulky, so it's not going to be able to move out the way quite so easy. But when you're hooked in, it's really comfortable and it's really supportive. Or a halfway house, where most harnesses started in winging, which is still fairly wide, lots of support. It's going to spread the load across your back, but it's a supple, flexible design, okay, which is this wing harness here, makes things really easy to cross over into it. 3 chains of thought, much like when you're choosing a line. If you're clipping in a lot, go hard shell, give yourself loads of support. If you're clipping in once in a while, a belt will do the job. Or if you want a halfway house, which is still comfortable but supple, these wingman harnesses do the job absolutely perfect. The other benefit of each of these options is by having a belt already attached onto your body, you've got plenty of attachment points to add your leash onto. So if you're used to riding a wrist leash and you like riding a wrist leash, you might carry on rolling like that. But if you want to attach it now onto into your waistline, rather than needing to buy a belt, you've got one. It fixes on absolutely fine. Really easy to attach a quick release in the middle if you wanted to do that. Or if you're still rolling a wrist leash, but you want to use a waist leash for your board, you've got that option. We've got some solid attachments on each of these options to go in. So let's have a look at how we're going to use a harness. So I've opted for a soft shell harness with a PU coated line. That's my personal preference. First thing, safety. Everyone's always going to be cautious. Once we've hooked into a harness, am I going to get stuck in my harness? What we don't want to do is we don't want to fall under the wing, get stuck underneath the wing there. So key bit of advice is just to relax. Always have in your mind, we've got a hook on, we can get that hook out. So practice before you go out on the beach. Practice hooking in, practice hooking out. Now, we can pull our wing towards us, we can push our hips towards the wing. We can use both of those motions to get ourselves in and to get ourselves out. Now, for me, the PU coated line, that extra weight, makes it a lot easier to get ourselves in because gravity's just dropping it down away from us. So once we push ourselves in, we can lift our wing up. We've got to take that strain out and then we can load it on. As long as we've got tension, that's going to stay in place. So if we want it to drop out of place by pulling the wing towards us or pushing ourselves towards the wing, gravity just drops it out the way. So always having that in your mind, we can relax. If we're starting to take a tumble, rather than going forwards, catapulting over the front, pull it towards you, let that harness out, and then we can throw it away from us. We can get out very easy. If we do take a tumble and we do go down and we've got this strain, it's very rare in winging that we get stuck in the harness because as soon as we hit the water, the tension comes out and then we can slide ourselves through. But worst case scenario, if you do get stuck, just stay calm. Our wing's very small. We know where the exits are, but just guide yourself out, swim yourself to the edge, and then you can come back up. When we're going along and we're using this harness, what we want to do first of all is just practice hooking in and getting out. So we can pull that wing towards us, we can hook ourselves in, and we can feel the load. We can start to loosen our grip, but then just let yourself back out again. It's different. If you're not used to using a harness from windsurfing or from kite surfing, it feels different for that load to be taken through your body here. What you don't want to do is scare yourself by losing control. So keep a straight line, keep going upwind, so we're not bearing off, we're not accelerating, we're not increasing our power, and nice and calmly hook yourself in, feel that load taken away, hook yourself back out again. Fly that wing high, keep it up above you. If it's up above you, then it's easier to get used to it. We've got more time to deal with it. It's easier to depower that wing when it's above us. If it's down in front of us and we change the angle, we can accelerate. So keep it high, keep it soft, practice getting out Practice getting in. Get used to that harness. We can practice it on the beach, then we can practice it on the board whilst we're riding along, in and out, until we're comfortably sitting in the harness. The more comfortable we get with this harness, the more we're able to lean back against it. The longer we might want our lines, which means the more we can angle our body over. The wing's still vertical, it's still got maximum power to the wind, but our body is able to counter-react it, get our weight off the board and angle ourselves really high into the wind, which is one of the biggest benefits after giving your arms for a rest, is that when we're in this harness and we twist ourselves with the load off our arms, we're able to gain 10 or 15 degrees more upwind. Riding upwind more means more gliding downwind after you've got there. So spend your time, get comfortable, use that wing in and out, getting comfortable with how it works. And don't be afraid to try it. It's something which is there. It's something, if you want a halfway house, you can go for a belt. You can use a bungee line, so it's not always there in your face. But the option to take load off your arms and the option to push yourself upwind harder, for me, when we're going out powered, if we're going out and we're doing long downwind glides and we need to get back upwind, or if we're learning to ride a sinker board and we want to be going out max to learn to get up and going, the rest that we get and that benefit of charging upwind way outweighs the benefit of the bob.